And we're live. Hey, Robbie.
Hey, Itzik, how are you doing after that brutal 6 hours?
That was a great journey here with all the talented people here solving a bunch of things pretty nicely, pretty quickly, pretty efficiently. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, achieving nice, very very nice achievements here.
you
So,
know, it
yep.
never fails or ceases to amaze me how, with every event that we do like this, beforehand, we're always discussing will this be the case where nobody will solve all 6 challenges, and we always think, oh yeah, this time it's going to be really difficult. But then somehow they still get so incredibly far, and we have 5 people solving all challenges here. It is insane.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
insane. It's insane, and I can only tell you, I think people are getting better as well. We're trying to ramp up the game a little bit to make sure that we capture the entire 6 hours, and but other people are also getting more sophisticated. We get a bunch more every time. We get a bunch more talented people playing
Yeah.
here, and it's really amazing to see how much talent there is really out there, and how much people are creative and thoughtful. But it's actually quite frightening from the other hand. As a software developer, right? That my background is I'm a software engineer, and so looking at that and seeing how far this community of hackers were able to get to, obviously, probably all people here are ethical hackers and they do great job protecting companies rather than doing anything else. But if they're able to do it, there are probably also malicious guys, and folks, after those cracks.
Yeah,
And there are some
and that's
pretty
actually why
exotic.
these events are so incredibly important, because these events bring together ethical hackers and developers, and kind of teach everybody more. So uh, we as ethical hackers, we're pushing ourselves forwards, and we have to make sure that we keep doing that we keep on sharing information, doing challenges like this one, writing write-ups and teaching other people, so that as the ethical hacker community, we're always ahead of the malicious actors that are out there, and they kind of have to stay behind just because we are pushing each other to go so much higher than we could have done alone. And I think
Absolutely.
events like these are so important in that sharing of information.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, those of you who don't know us, like at Wizer, our philosophy around training developers to be more secured and more thoughtful when they write code, and making sure their code is much more protected, is to kind of like give them a window and a view on how the hacker thinks and how the hackers do their job. I mean, people like Robbie with a lot of experience in pen testing and in attacking software, just to kind of like see if it really holds and there are no cracks. Are able to show the other side, where developers are trained to be more builders and more kind of like they're after taking a spec and making it reality, right? But at the same time, they need to understand how other people think of their code without even knowing their code. 90% of the times the hackers don't have the code, right? They don't have access to the code, but they're still able to find those vulnerable places. And so our angle is to help developers protect more, but at the same time, hackers are in this conversation because most of them are red teams and white teams, and they're actually playing some part in the same game, but from another angle. So, yeah, we feel like this is a real opportunity to connect developers and hackers a little more, and to kind of like create a collaboration from this type. So we have 9 seconds, 8 seconds, 7 seconds,
Six,
6 seconds,
five,
five,
four,
three,
three,
two,
two,
one,
one.
and
Woof!
that's
It's
it.
over.
He's over, guys. So that
No
was
more flags.
amazing, amazing,
Yeah.
everyone. Amazing. This was really, really fun.
Wow.
So let me refresh one last time just to see how things look right now. Yeah, so we have 5 people with 6 solutions, where the winner was already set a while ago, right? After 2.5 hours, pretty much. We have Felipe, who won the 6, was able to really be super speedy.
Really speedy.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. And then after that, number 2 or second spot is for Miguel Costa. Uh, Again, great job. I think this is after 3 hours and 43 minutes. Solving this kind of complexity is not easy at all. At all.
No,
I
no,
think
no.
it's really remarkable. And then right after is, I believe it's not a real name, but Abraxas. I hope I'm not butchering your intention here or your name. And that is 10 minutes later, right? So it's not a lot.
Close one. Close one.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, this is our top three, and these guys are gonna get some awesome prizes. So that there's a $1,000 prize pool that will be split between them. I think Felipe can expect $600. Miguel can expect $300, and Abraxas $100. So I mean, those are some nice rewards for you guys. So congratulations, that's awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for the other guys, I mean, you guys were awesome. We have 2 more people who were able to solve the entire 6, which is
Yeah.
remarkable. We didn't have that in many cases. And
Mhm.
believe me, this time wasn't easier than last time. I think we had even a little bit more complexity overall in the challenges. So maybe it's the type of challenges that made some guys excel more here or not. But you know, finally you should pat yourself on the back. You were able to solve quite significant ones here. And
Okay.
so if I look even lower, I see some people, like at least 2 more people solved 5 out of the 6, and then 3, 2, and 1. We had great participation today. We felt like there's a lot of activity. You guys were communicating, we're asking questions and communicating, and it's a fun community. We really love working with you guys on a regular basis, in between those challenges on the bi-weekly ones, but obviously also on those. We're trying to do it quarterly, so on the quarterly ones, right? The bigger events. Um, so let me remind again the write-ups thing. Okay, so what we encourage people to do here, and you guys solved a lot, so you definitely have the ability to do that. Whoever wants to write a write-up on 1, 2, 3, or even the entire 6 challenges that you've participated in, whether you solve them or not, right? Challenges, or sorry, if you haven't solved the challenge and you want to walk us through your thought process and where you got stuck, that's also valid. We'd love to see that too. But definitely, if you solved it and you want to walk us through the entire thing and what you took away from it, and what is the probably best takeaways here that you think are important, try to think about it as a developer as well. We'd like to see ideally some remediation strategies and how would you avoid it, or think about it a little differently to kind of like to bring a better solution that is not vulnerable and is more secure. So that is also. So what we'll do is we'll give you 2 weeks from right now through 10 a.m. the next Friday. Robbie, what's the date there? 13th?
16th, next Sunday. So it's March 16th.
March 16th, sorry, yes. March 16th at 10 a.m. So you got 2 weeks to write those things. Can be a video, it can be, a write-up, standard document, any format you choose. We'd love to see creativity as well. The ones that, we think are worthy are probably going to be also published on different medias as we see fit and Wizer. So we might use them and so forth. But by doing that, and if you pick your write-ups, you will also get swag. So we have a swag shop, and we're gonna give away credits for the swag shop, so you can get yourself something nice from the shop. So that is also something we'd highly encourage you to do. and would love to see, because I think it also helps to kind of like complete the educational component of the experience. And if you write
Totally.
it, you're definitely going to be able to capture the entire view. You'll have to think about it more holistically than, kind of like tactically how to solve something.
100% agree. Uh, Itzik, I think it's time that we go over some of the challenges and kind of discuss what the
Absolutely.
solutions were.
Yeah,
So let's
absolutely.
start with the first one because that's one that you created, and
Yeah,
it's very short, but still a bit tricky if you don't know the trick, right?
right. Yeah, yeah. So here we're using inner HTML. Every person who dealt a little bit with security will tell you, don't use any payload or user input in inner HTML or with inner HTML. Super dangerous. And if you're doing that, sanitize. You need to really sanitize it. In this case, it wasn't sanitized, but unintentionally, since the code can't have spaces, someone used a regular expression, and removed all the white spaces here. Okay, so you can't put spaces. So what do you do if you want to do a script tag? It won't work because of inner HTML. But if you're going to do something like an image on error and something like that, you have to find a way without spaces. So one of the biggest ways the hackers know about is slashes, right? So you can add a slash, like image slash, and then source and etc., and then slash again and on error or something like that. So that was the solution for this one. Fairly easy, but again, if you don't know about it, you'll have to find out. So Rob even mentioned, ChatGPT might be able to help you here. What do you do? So that was one. The second challenge was a little bit of brute force, not really straightforward, but also, you had Alice R here as an example, as a user in the user database. It's kind of like a temporary database. And there's, in the actual code, there's another user here that you can see here. The name is BO ** example.com. And we need to guess this name, right? So how do we guess this name? There's a login method here. And as you can see, the login goes through crypto and tries to encrypt the password to actually match with the password in the database, right? So in order to do that, okay, it takes a little bit more time. So it's a time-based kind of like brute force, timing-based brute force, that if you run it enough times, you will see which is the right one, even without being able to log in, because you passed the user, right? And this one will actually get you to, to understand which email is correct and not. Because what we've done here on the get ID, you won't be able to get much. The reason you won't be able to use that strategy here on the get ID is that, if you provide an email address that doesn't exist, we're going to put it in the wrong emails list, and then we're going to generate an ID for it. So you won't know if this ID is the real ID, or just an ID that was identified or was created on the fly. Because from that point on, you're going to get the same ID. So there's no way to kind of like go back and forth, and it won't work for you. So you'll have to use the timing base. There's no workaround here. But again, it's a pretty straightforward brute force. Anything to add, Robbie? Here, you wanted to add?
No, I think this is something that we see all the time in real applications. Like, you can discern little bits of information, and some people will say, oh, well, this is not really a security issue, right? You can see if somebody has an account on a website or not. But in reality, it often is a security issue. Like, imagine this on dating sites where you can know if people have an account there. I think there once even was a dating site that got their database leaked, and it got found out that some senators were on this dating site, and it was used for when you wanted to cheat on your wife or whatnot. Like, being able to figure out who has an account and with what email address can definitely be a security issue.
Yeah, absolutely. That's PII in need of itself, and that's private information that shouldn't be out there. And if you're not careful, and you have this situation where you found the user, but then you encrypt, and then it takes time, or then you do some long operation, and then someone can identify, oh, this took fast, this was long, and they run like a list of them. They can really quickly discover whether an email is there or not, even though you didn't give them any hints here, right? The login failed. Okay, no problem. But
Exactly.
okay, so with that, let's move on to the third one.
Yes, the third one, an ode to XML. This challenge was built almost entirely in XML. So if we scroll, you see, the content type is set to application/XML.
Yep.
What does this challenge have? Well, this challenge had a couple of functionalities that you could use. You could upload specific files. You could then actually render your files. But if you'd actually had looked on that page and tried to render your uploaded file, then you would have seen that it doesn't quite work because the functionality has been disabled. It's only enabled, they found that it was unsafe, and so they disabled it. And that is done in a way that we see right here on the page. So it's going to read a config.xml file, and in that file, it's going to look for your specific endpoint in the settings. And what is this called? This is called XPath. So, just where you were there, right there, exactly. So you see that query with //settings/endpoint, that is called like an XPath query. It's a way to query XML. And like I said in the earlier live stream in the early 2000s, XML was going to be the next big thing that was going to be used instead of databases. We were going to store stuff in XML. That luckily didn't happen because this querying is incredibly messy. But here we have user input inside of that XPath and that XML query, and that is just like an SQL injection. This is called an XPath injection, and so you're able to inject in there with user input, which is your endpoint, whatever you want. And through this way, you can make it seem like actually the endpoint is allowed and you're actually allowed to render stuff. So now you have a file upload and you can then render your data. And if we scroll down to the render functionality, yes, the view functionality there, the render XML to PNG, what it's going to do, it's going to take your XML data that you uploaded, and it's going to parse it. And when parsing XML, somebody a long time ago came up with the brilliant idea of allowing XML to have entities, and those entities, they can interact with files on the file system and whatnot, which is a very great idea if you want to build cool stuff. But from a security perspective, that is just bound to go wrong. And in this case, you can also see the no end set to true. No entities, it means no entities, but entities are set to true. So entities are allowed in this case, because by now, most XML parsers will disable this by default, because everybody has figured out it's a bad idea if we require developers to really read the documentation and to figure out on their own that it's something they should disable, which ties in with you have to make things secure by default. So these libraries all want to be secure by default. But if you enable the entities, then you can just upload a file that will load in the flag or any other file on the file system and then render it as an image. And from that image, you can steal the flag. And that was this challenge. So an XML, an XPath injection chained with an XXC, an XML external entities tag.
Pretty interesting one. And as you can see, not too many people were able to solve it. Like it took a lot of effort. It wasn't that easy. Let's move on to the fourth one, which I think people even struggled more, right?
Yes, this one people struggled with a lot, and in essence, it's really simple. Let's scroll down all the way to the bottom, almost all the way to the bottom. Sorry, all the way to the top. My apologies. Because there is, if you scroll down a little bit more below the database,
yep,
there is here a database which has a secret, and there is a very simple SQL injection that you can exploit in it. And this SQL injection, it's a blind injection, so you have to kind of like brute force the numbers, but everybody knows that SQL map is a tool that we use that can do this automatically. Sadly, oftentimes, websites won't make it easy for you to send a lot of requests. They will have stuff in place, such as this first module, rate limiting. This will stop you from making more than 3 requests. And well, if you need to brute force numbers to figure out whatever it's in the database, that's going to block you quite a lot. Now, this rate limit, how can you bypass it? Well, it's really easy. If you set the X forwarded 4 header to just any random IP address, then the server will take that X forwarded 4 IP address and see it as your IP address, and that way you can bypass this rate limit in this case, which would have been very useful, but I've actually heard from one of the players that they solved this challenge without bypassing the rate limit. They just waited in their script every time until the rate limit was clear. It took like almost 3 hours for their script to find the flag, but eventually it did find the flag. So that is a pretty cool bypass that I did not foresee. But of course, once you get past the rate limit, then most applications also require you to be authenticated. You need to be logged in. And in this case, I've actually made the login really annoying because the cookie there has a max age of 5,000, which is 5,000 milliseconds. So every 5 seconds, you get logged out again, and you need to log in again. This is something we see people doing wrong in their tooling all the time. When people run automated tooling to give them to run tests on their code, so whether you're using some desk scanner, you fully automate it, but you forget to properly log in the desk scanner, and it's just hitting the login endpoint every time. I wanted to kind of trick people here and make sure that their tooling is able to properly log in with every request. A lot of people coded this. It's also really simple. If you have Burp Suite Pro, then you can just set up a session handling rule and just tell Burp Suite anytime we're logged out, log back in, and it will automatically do that for you. So that's something your tooling can probably do, so use it. So that's the second module. But then, of course, that wouldn't be hard enough. So we also have, even below that, we have module 3, which is request signing. This is something that websites start doing more and more. It's where they sign a request on the front end, and then in the back end, decrypt it, so that if you capture it in between, it's going to be really hard to modify because you need the secret. Now, obviously, the secret is on the client side, so you can find it. And in this case, the secret is even just disclosed in the code somewhere at the bottom there, my secret key. But still, your tooling now needs to take every request that you want to send and properly calculate the HMAC, so the signature, and attach that. And this, once again, is really easy to solve in Burp Suite if you just use the Hackfurter plugin, and you can just say, hey, calculate the HMAC of the request body. And that way you have it without doing any coding, but just 2 clicks, you have the solution for this module. Then, of course, there's still another module, and that is a CSRF token. So here, again, you need to take CSRF tokens from the response and put them in your next request. So that's also something you need to solve. And then, because that wasn't hard enough yet, there's still a 5th module. And this one is, I think, the most evil. It's just the server that decides for every 100 or every 20 requests, one is just going to fail. For no reason whatsoever, it's just not going to work. And it's just going to say, hey, sorry, that request failed. So now your tooling also needs to work with the fact that on the internet, sometimes requests just fail. Sometimes things happen, a server has an error, whatnot, it doesn't work. So your tooling also needs to make sure that it can handle those random failures. And if you put all of that together, then you would have been able to solve the SQL injection and actually get the flag. So as you can see, the SQL injection is super really easy. It's right there. But all of this surrounding it makes it quite difficult to find.
Absolutely. A great, really great one, I think. Really, really great one.
All right.
So let's move on to the 5th one.
Notes of secrecy. Yes, this was a note-taking application where you could store your notes. And it would, when you get a note, it's going to check if your note is, it's going to check your note name. It's going to MD5 it and then check against the database if that hash matches. But there's also a little bit, if you scroll a little bit up again, every hash that you send, it's checked that it's actually hexadecimal with that regex there. But this regex looks a little weird. And that's because this regex is vulnerable to a vulnerability called a REDOS, or a regex denial of service. What does that mean? Well, regex is kind of a whole programming language inside a programming language. It can do a lot of stuff. And by feeding this specific strings, so like a long hexadecimal string followed by a non-hexadecimal character, it is going to have to do a lot of brute forcing in the middle to check every possible combination if it matches. And that takes a lot of time. And with this, you can actually create a lot of timing differences. For example, you could even bring servers down or make requests take up to 100 seconds or 1,000 seconds, which can be which obviously is very bad for the server because, well, it's a lot of resources that get taken and it might have other consequences like denial of service. But in this case, you could abuse that fact by tricking the server into sending a little bit of delay whenever specific characters in your node ID were correct. So if you had the first character correct, then it would check the second character. It would trigger that REDOS, which could get a little bit of timing differences, and that way you could then eventually find out what the flag was. Or at least that's the idea behind the challenge, but I just saw in the chat that somebody found an unintended solution. So Lost Byte, please tell me what this unintended solution is, because I am very, very curious. But because this challenge got 13 solves, and I think that's suspiciously many for the difficulty level, I think. So yeah. I'm very, very curious to hear what the unintended solution is. Because I spent some time myself looking for unintended solutions, but I couldn't really find any. But, well, I guess we'll hear that in a bit, or perhaps later in the write-ups.
People get really creative, and it's really hard sometimes for us to not miss things. When writing these, we check ourselves mutually, and we give it to other people to take a look. And but sometimes you just can't find something, and you guys are awesome and creative, and you find certain things that we're not even looking at.
That worked! Oh my! I just got the solution. I saw the solution in Discord, and I am flabbergasted that worked. Oh no! Wow! Thanks a lot. I'm curious. If anybody solved it the intended way, let me know. Or if everybody solved it this way.
Yeah. No, node ID 001 doesn't have. Yeah.
That is really cool.
That's interesting. Yeah. Wow.
I am definitely gonna play around with that. The compare function just bails out and returns true. That is. Ooh, that hurts.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, but finding this, obviously not too many people found out about it. But
exactly.
Finding it in it of itself is a great achievement. Really nice. Yeah, really cool. Okay, so let's go to the very last one, Six Peppers one. And also people struggled with it, obviously, but we're able to even solve it more than number 4. So that's but very, very hard one. So why don't you walk us through that, Robbie?
Yes. So we won't have time to go into full depth, but pretty much you have a cookie clicker game and an authorization server on a different domain, and they're using OAuth to authenticate. The first thing you need to figure out is that this OAuth server, whenever you do an OAuth flow, you send the connection to the OAuth server, which then has a redirect URI, so it can send you back to the server with your proper authentication. That has a flaw in this case where it checks that the redirect URL contains the actual host name of the game, but it doesn't make sure it's in the host name part. So you can just send http://attacker.com/ and then the Wizer event game, and it will think, okay, that's a valid redirect location. What that means is that you can craft a URL that when somebody visits it, they get logged into their account, and then the code or the login is sent to the attacker instead of the service. But sadly, to exploit that, you first needs to, the user first needs to click a button. And of course, that's user interaction. If a user visits a link and then has to click login and click a button, they probably won't do it. But in this case, there's a way to automate it. Because on the front end, on a cookie clicker, you can share your cookie clicker, and you can add some custom HTML on the cookie clicker, and then have the administrators test it. And when the administrators are testing your cookie clicker, they take whatever thing they can find on the page that has the ID cookie, and they just click it 5 times just to test if your cookie clicker works. So what can you do? You can inject some HTML with the ID cookie, put it in a specific location. The administrator clicks on that. That is then an A tag that redirects the administrator to your malicious login page. It then keeps on clicking on that location on your malicious login page, and by chance, the button to actually log in is on the exact location as where the cookie used to be. So the administrator clicks that, and that then logs them in with that malicious redirect URL that we saw earlier, redirecting them to the attacker. The attacker gets their code and can use that code to log in as that user against the service. And that is how this challenge was solved in really short terms.
So there's a question here about CTFs will be up for practice. Yes, absolutely, yes, but not right now. So we're auditing the solutions. We just want to make sure that there were no unintended issues or problems with the inputs and everything. It looks fine for everything that we heard. We're going to do that. And then at the end of that session that we'll do, probably in a day or two, we're going to reopen the game. You guys can re-enter and continue to solve whatever you haven't solved yet. Or if you want to create another account, I don't recommend that, but and solve from scratch, but I wouldn't do that. But if you want to solve the things that you haven't yet, you want to still, try it again after, you learned a little bit more here. Yeah, by all means. So in a day or two, not sure it's exactly going to take 24 hours or 48 hours, but in a very short time, you'll be able to log in again and continue to play. Are there any other, question, thoughts? I see comment here. What's in here? No,
I think we've handled all the comments.
Yep.
I think everybody is very tired after that day of
Absolutely. In some places, it's probably after midnight even, right?
Yeah.
So that could be very tiring. So thank you all for participating in this one. It was really fun. We really love hosting those. We really find it exciting. I hope it's educational and fun for you guys. We have great winners, we have great prizes. We're going to be looking forward. We already got one write-up. I'm going to take a look at it right after. But people are going to write more write-ups, going to review them, we're going to get swag. That's really awesome, guys. And if you guys have ideas for ideas for CTFs that you want to share with us, and any other collaboration that you want to collaborate with us, would love to collaborate with you too. That's the purpose of our community: educational learning, mutual learning, and getting to know different approaches. Thank you very much, and congrats to the winners.
Congratulations.
Thank you everyone for participating. I'll let you all know when it reopens in Discord. Okay, so that's probably the only place I'm gonna put it in. So if you guys, hopefully all of you guys are on Discord. If not, take the time to join our Discord server, and we will announce here. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you, Itzik.
Robbie, it was, I mean, you were able to create some really fun ones this time.
Yeah. I'm a bit that my challenge got an unintended solution. I'm not gonna write challenges in JavaScript anymore because my God, there's always something. This happened last time too, where some weird undefined caused my challenge to get a bypass. Damn you, JavaScript.
Okay, thank you all. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.